All right, folks, buckle up for today's episode of the ADOTAT show, where I get to sit down with the digital ad wizard who's been piecing together the chaos since the 90s, Raj Chauhan. This guy has built ad networks like most people build IKEA furniture, fast, sturdy, and leaving everyone else in the dust. Plus, he took a wild detour into the cannabis industry, so you know we've got some stories.
Deserve to win when it matters most. Facing multi-billion-dollar bet the company litigation? No problem. That's why we're here. Troutman Amin, LLP is a true legal powerhouse.
Gentlemen, hold on to your hats. Today on the ADOTAT show, we have the brilliant Raj Chauhan, a digital advertising wizard who's been assembling this wild puzzle since 1995. He's built ad networks like a kid with Legos and even took a detour into the cannabis world. Now he's at Voodoo, transforming online shopping like it's a walk in the park. And I am your host, Pesach, Lattin, on my 10th cup of coffee, trying to make this day work while keeping our show racking up followers. Over 35,000 tuning in to catch every witty word. So grab your caffeine and get ready, because this conversation is about to get as colorful and chaotic as my life. So Raj, first of all, how are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Really good.
So you've been crushing the digital highway since 1995, right when the internet was a curious toddler and the omnipotent juggernaut is today. Now as we navigate this labyrinth web, how have you seen the industry morph from those ancient dial-up days of yore, and what stubbornly remains like the one pair of jeans you can't let go of?
A great question. I think the massive changes that happened in the market back then when we were just serving up banners and, still using ad servers, but just serving up ads and didn't really have a lot of data. No concept of marketplaces existed, right? I think that's the big change in what happened in the transition from the network world to the platform world, to the SSPs and the DSPs, and the ability to use data to target immediately and transact and have always on campaigns. I think that's the big kind of massive change that occurred in the market.
When you were sitting there watching those AOL login screens load pixel by pixel, did you ever think we'd come into the world where memes reign supreme?
No, never. I mean, I would have never imagined memes or social media kind of just taking such a big part of the space and having so much attention for users. Not at all.
Is there any relics that you like to come back from the good old days, aside from pesky pop-ups?
Yeah, right. Pop-ups, pop-unders. I think there was a lot more kind of hand-to-hand combat and actually like people engaging a little bit more on deals, and that was kind of fun. I enjoyed the people side of it and the idea that everything doesn't come down to just a price when it comes to relationships and what you want to do based on your network and the value that you can exchange and work and sell somebody on. So I kind of liked a lot of the interpersonal dealings of campaigns and business in the past.
You were one of the pioneering architects of ad networks in the late 1990s, a time when selling ads felt more like bartering in a marketplace than a polished enterprise. What invaluable lessons did you learn from those days that still inform your decision-making today?
Say to that point of what marketplaces have created today, it's that matching capability. This is where the network started, right? We cobbled together, 100 or 50 different sports websites or cooking and home sites, and then we would go to a brand and agencies and get them to buy across the whole ecosystem like that. So I think that is still something that we have today, right? And that matching capability of finding the right audience for the right buyer and brand is still pretty key and common. So I like seeing that in market, and it's part of the magic that we can all kind of take advantage of.
Why settle for dusty old school TV ads when you could be turning heads with Origin? Imagine zero-code solutions that make setting up your CTV campaigns faster than a double espresso shot. Origin brings dynamic, captivating ads in the living room and outside the home, with ad formats designed to grab eyeballs and stop thumbs from scrolling. Origin isn't just about reach, it's about results, like a jaw-dropping 883% lift in viewer attention. Don't just get noticed, get remembered. Visit originmedia.tv and start your ad revolution today.
Is there any cringe-worthy blunder from those days that you care not to repeat?
There's some partnerships I wish I hadn't done. Oh, at one time I built a network in called Banner Brokers, and that was in like 96, 97. And once we built that, I had a publisher, essentially someone who was managing a number of publishers on their own, a publisher of publishers essentially. And he was doing a lot of business with us. He was our number one source of revenue and publishing revenue. Sent Christmas gifts, which nobody ever did, which was great. He was really slick. And so, at some point he came to me and said, "Hey, I want to start an ad network." And so that was the inception of Click Agents. So I moved from Banner Brokers. I left Malibu and I was living at the beach, like literally doing deals on a cordless headset, watching porpoises in the water, which is great. And I went to San Jose to start Click Agents with Gurbash. And, I just kind of picked up and moved everything. And I was maybe 20, was I 25? I was like maybe 25, 24. So, I think in retrospect, I should not have gotten rid of my place in Malibu, because after 6 months, I was back in LA. And, we started a great business. Literally, Click Agents became the number like 2 or 3 ad network in a matter of like 90 days. I moved over so much business quickly. I literally drove my drive to San Jose in the U-Haul. I did probably $2 million in business in the U-Haul on the phone. We started the company. But I would say I kind of wish I had just stuck with Mike in Malibu and just kind of kept building on Banner Brokers and fixed our technology issues there, because the partnership with Gurbash was not successful.
So as we look at today's partnerships and sales cycles, what's the biggest Goliath you're facing? Are we just over-engineering everything, or is there something genuinely novel throwing a wrench in the gears?
I don't know if we're over-engineering. I do think, well, let's break this up a bit. So 2 things. One is that, I do think there's a lot of shiny objects and things that come into market that are distracting our attention and basically distributing the one thing that we can't make more of, which is time, so that we can focus on the things that do matter. And then, I think the things that we're not over-engineering that are very interesting and kind of coming back to life, for example, are things like a curation of different audiences and properties. And once again, we're packaging up, audiences and taking them to buyers and saying, "Hey, you can buy this across all of these audiences and the destination publishing sites or X, Y, and Z." So this is kind of like private marketplace deals, and which is all very similar, to ad networks and what we built originally.
So we've seen a seismic consumer shift towards commerce convenience. The modern rallying cry of "I want it, and I want it now." How do you envision this trend reshaping our approach to creativity and the burgeoning world of shoppable ads?
Great question. So, I think the instant gratification and desires that people have, and the capability now and the training, let's call it, that TikTok and Meta have created on the consumer mindset to be able to purchase, at the point of inspiration and interest has and will definitely change creative. And in the sense that, companies and holding companies like IPG, Kinesso, etc., they're all understanding that the user should have options and choices, and if they want to provide them with options and to be able to purchase right there and then for something, then the creative has to change to allow functionality from a technical standpoint to actually, add to cart or to make the purchase occur within that unit or the content itself. Plus, I think the actual messaging will be changing and is changing to allow users to feel more inspiration and that emotional connection to a brand, or the emotional connection to wanting something, which isn't necessarily driven by a brand, is driven by the desire of the user to want that shirt, the purse, the shoes, the product that's there.
So if you had the magical, mystical ability to resurrect any part of the past in online advertising, what would it be? And you can't say flash banners.
Okay. What would it be? That's a good question. I think what I'd like to see more of would be direct deals that are happening with publishers. I'd like to see publishing return and be in a position where they had more dominance and control over the market and their consumers and audiences.
Right. So like myself, you took a little detour into the green pastures of the cannabis industry. Was it all blissful vibes and snack-fueled brainstorming, or the experience unveiled some shocking contrasts to the digital world?
It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I thought the early years of ad tech were really kind of like aggressive, even the platform wars of 2012, whatever, like we were just blowing up Rubicon, OpenX, globally, this and that. But cannabis is the hardest game in town. It is very challenging. It is challenging because of macro financial issues, like not being able to bank properly, right? And then you've got, you've got a moving target on kind of like cannabis laws and basically, what are different states doing essentially to manage their track and trace. And so it was, and it's moving literally every quarter, every year when 17 and 18, especially when it was just kind of legal in California, you were having label changes happen on products and that were required by the state. Regulations were changing every couple of months, but you had orders in to China to go ahead and make those containers, those products, those, pre-rolled joint containers and things like that. So you were having things shipped back and then adding stickers, and literally we sat there for hours just manually adding the new requirement that came out onto products. So it was a great experience. I really enjoyed it, but it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And retail and delivery businesses in the cannabis industry are challenging, definitely.
To be honest, did you ever hit your limit with the barrage of cannabis puns?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's so many, and like this is great. It's a great talking point when I'm telling people I'm back after 7 years. What were you doing? And with your time, and this is what I was doing. It's a great story to tell people. I would say the most interesting thing and connection point between the two is that there was a pretty fast movement, and this was led by some ad tech companies and individuals from ad tech companies, pretty fast movement for the retailers to start figuring out retail media. So retail media has been pretty active in the cannabis space for quite some time, but they're just really looking just to sell as much as possible and sell more weed. Again, there's so much supply in that industry that prices are so cheap for consumers that it's very challenging to keep loyalty and to drive sales. And so I think the retail media side of things kicked off pretty quickly over that industry.
How many government forms did it take to get a single product approved? Did you feel like you were wandering through a bureaucratic maze?
Well, it's not like it wasn't necessarily like a one-on-one approval, but there is so much legality and so much compliance and a lot of with track and trace and being able for the state to know when something's put in the ground and planted, you have to kind of follow that all the way through to the consumer sale. So there's a lot of details that matter. Literally, if you received a shipment and you were off by 1 unit, you'd have to send it back, and then they would have to return with the right packaging, kind of there. So there's a ton of compliance, and that's another reason why it's so challenging in that industry. You have to keep on top of that every day, with your products and your sales.
So what compelled you to return to the ad tech scene after your cannabis escapade? Was it the intoxicating metrics, the electric magnets, or perhaps the sentimental longing for the glorious chaos of it all?
Yeah, the reason I started looking back in ad tech, which was probably 3 years ago, was particularly in the cannabis industry. To my point earlier, there's some macroeconomic issues just with oversupply, for example, with compliance, with the amount of production you can do so quickly now in cannabis, which drove the prices down, that I saw that, this is a sector that I had not anticipated this, of course, but it's a sector that is going to have to get federally legal to really be successful. It's the only way. And thinking that it's going to happen 2 years from now, 5 years from now, like at a certain point, you just need to stop thinking it's going to happen. When it happens, it happens. But in the meantime, it's a hard game. And so I saw that. So probably 2.5, 3 years ago, I started looking back in ad tech. I actually took, and this is something I believe in a lot, which is always be learning. I took during that time a lot of like Snowflake webinars. I learned a lot about data, clean rooms, what was happening with that. I was already engaged in some capacity with CTV, but obviously during COVID, CTV blew up, and I started looking back into that. And then I started hearing through a contract I did. Actually, I did a contract with a company in Canada, Ad Butler, And during that time, we were doing some retail media type deals. I started looking at retail media, and as an ad network person, right, from back in the day, I started really getting excited about the opportunity and seeing something coming back that, is very passionate to me in terms of building a network. So I started just kind of digging in for a couple of years on that before I landed here at Voodoo. But I really was attracted by retail media and connected television.
So you've been at Rubicon, AppNexus, and Mountain along with your escapades dealing with Fortune 500 titans. So what's the single most valuable lesson, that you plucked from navigating these corporate behemoths that every startup should take to heart?
Well, they were all great startups. And, I think to take to heart that, you have to grind.
Right.
And grinding, the devil's in the details. There's a lot of work to get done when you're building a new business and a new sector. Those companies you mentioned, right, Rubicon, those early years, it was very challenging to get people to the publishing side was all game, ready to, kind of jump on board. It was 2008. We were having a terrible economy. We crashed and publishing needed us. Getting buyers on board was a big challenge, and ad networks to buy from you. So I think just, grinding and really getting in the weeds and into the details of what's going to actually make things work.
So does premium inventory actually equate to high maintenance clients that require more handholding than a toddler?
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, if you got premium inventory and you're dealing with bigger advertisers and agencies and you're asking for bigger dollars, right? The high end of town, you're going to end up, managing clients who are a little more demanding and have the right to be for what they're spending with you.
Is there actually a market for premium inventory, or are we just talking about the garbage bin all the time?
It's a challenge. You can find audiences pretty cheap all over the place, right? So this is the challenge that big publishers who have great content face today. But, I think the Condé Nast and the Dash Merediths and, those type of publishers like Vogue and even Time, like these historic brands have the opportunity to take premium dollars down, but it is becoming challenging, more and more challenging every year for them, which is unfortunate because this is all built on the backs of publishing, essentially, right? The whole industry is made around content.
So obviously there's a meteoric rise of CTV. Where do you see Shoppable TV heading in the next 5 years? Are we talking about a future where every sitcom gag could trigger an impulse buy?
I don't think so. I don't know about the impulse buy stuff. I think what some folks are maybe potentially going down the wrong path on is the idea that consumers are going to pause TV shows and content to go purchase things. I don't think that's going to happen personally. I think what will happen, and we're seeing this, either these conversations or these applications are now live, meaning that the hardware manufacturers are looking at changing their operating systems, and a number of them who get $1,000 one-time fee for the purchase of the largest screen in the house. And then, streaming companies and whoever else and advertisers themselves are making millions and billions of dollars off that screen. I think you'll see operating systems change, and some of those companies doing that today that are leading in that area, LG, Samsung, Roku, and the one-click shopping is coming. I think that you may find in some of these operating systems will have ways for you to essentially buy, you see something and the creative and the ad for that product will come up during the show. You may have things where the products in the show, you can easily one click and just buy them, great, or you could save them to research and look at them later, right? Things like that. But one-click shopping is coming. The QR code is not the end all, and I think it's going to happen a lot faster than people anticipate. That I even anticipated. I was really surprised and excited about the Vizio Walmart deal. That's going to move the market pretty quickly in terms of shoppable TV as well.
So what do you think about what Trade Desk is doing with their own OS?
That's really interesting, because that's really interesting. I feel like that might be a bit. It seems like it's a bit much in the sense that the control that would occur if the Trade Desk had the operating system and ran all campaigns inside of that platform as well too. So hey, it's an open market. We're in a capitalistic market. Do it. Let's see what happens. But there's going to be others. I think that'll provide there's going to be other operating systems, whether they're third parties or built directly by some of the manufacturers, that will distribute some of the control in the space. And I think that's where most manufacturers will be going, with their businesses.
So you mentioned that you left AdTech in 2017 because you felt there was no more innovation. Do you feel that innovation is back?
I do. It's really exciting right now, and that's one of the reasons I'm back. Is that in those years, maybe header bidding came around, and there wasn't a ton happening at that time. And so what I'm excited about right now is the amount of creative changes that are going on. Creative is changing. The curation path that companies are on right now as well too, which is great because it's once again bringing people back into the game in the sense that, like, hey, you need someone as an expert to curate things for you. And I like that relationship standpoint that curation is bringing back to the market. And then the retail media and commerce media industry sector essentially is so interesting, driving so much value back. And I think we have ways now to have full closed loop attribution with that and with some of the products that we're building too, right? Where you can actually fully capture exactly where the sale came from.
Is there any trend in retail media and CTV that you think will shake up the industry? I know we're about to see the final curtain drop in linear TV.
I don't know. Linear TV, I'm always surprised that I run across companies that are doing hundreds of millions of dollars in linear TV still, and they run that plus a CTV business, right? So it's really interesting to see that. I think in terms of with retail and commerce media, I think what we're going to see is just a very, very fast transition, and we are seeing it, a budget to those companies to drive sales and to kind of drive the really the bottom of the funnel revenue very quickly. And so I think we'll just see a tremendous amount of budget going to those organizations. And I implore everyone in the space, if you don't have one now, you should have a commerce strategy. Whether you're an agency or a publisher, like, you need to have a commerce strategy. And not just how are you going to take money from the retail media networks and get spend, so what are you going to do for consumers, and how are you going to have a commerce strategy on your destination, on your site, for your brands? If you're, an agency, what are you going to do for them exactly?
So who do you think is poised to dominate the shoppable TV space, and should we start placing bets now?
It's a bit early, but I hope that we will be one of those companies that, kind of takes the game in that market. Roku's doing a very good job, very fast, for their platform. So I think they'll do very well in the space. If you're going to make a bet, you could probably bet on Roku. And LG, Samsung has always had a big, massive opportunity. And I'm not sure how much they're taking advantage of that overall. I haven't seen enough to say that they really took advantage of it. But with their devices and their phones and their tablets and their TVs, they have an opportunity with the audiences that they have to do something very interesting across multiple platforms.
If you were to advise a company just stepping into the world of retail media, what's the one cardinal rule they should live by? Is it all about authenticity or ensuring they don't bungle their first big buy?
So if someone were to move into the retail media space, I would say build an open platform where you have the opportunity to work with multiple, where you have multiple vendors, multiple partners, and build something open and easy for retail networks and commerce networks and buyers to be able to integrate into and be able to use.
So how do you see Shoppable capabilities expanding beyond social media to actually revolutionize e-commerce?
Well, I think now that, again, the consumer mindset is there to make shoppable experiences actually work. I think there was a moment that people were launching. It was a little early, but now we're there. I think that the open web has an opportunity to take the same type of audiences and take advantage of what the social networks have done in a closed environment and really drive value to consumers on transactions of products and things that they're interested in and they want. So, one of the things that, we're doing and working on with our creative products is making sure that the brand and then therefore the consumer has an option to do multiple things. You're not always going to buy something every time you see it. Even if you have the option to do it, you want to be able to let the user go to the site, dig deeper into content, kind of consume more, be more engaged and get some emotional, interest in the product. At the same time, allow them to be able to buy it right there and then as well. So I think to your question, there's a lot of interesting things happening with Shoppable as it relates to the open web. And I think that's really where we and others are going to start opening up the opportunity so that it's not just a social related product.
Bringing innovation ideas to market is always a battle. What's the biggest obstacle you've encountered in Voodoo, and how did you manage to conquer it?
I think we're still working on trying to conquer it, and the idea of bringing a new business into the Americas and launching, which we're, technically a month into our official launch to the United States. I think there's just a lot of work to do and a lot of groundwork to do to really evangelize this particular sector. So it's new as a sector overall, Shoppable Media, and then obviously we're a new company too. So, my goal and the reason I'm traveling so much right now, and I'm at Advertising Week currently, is that we just need to evangelize, talk to a lot of people, get the product out there, get people thinking. So literally, when I talk about the devils and the details and kind of getting into the weeds of things, just really sharing with people ideas and concepts for their brands and creative or their publishing company on how they could use a product like this so they can understand, okay, as a publisher, I can use this for my affiliate products. I can do this with my content studio. And here's what I can do with just standard ads that are running, through programmatics. There's a lot of ideation that needs to happen early on as you evangelize new solutions like this.
You've mentioned that there's a staggering $100 billion lost annually to ad fraud. What is the most overcooked solution to combat this colossal waste?
Overcooked solution. Well, I don't know what the solution is and how this is even happening, to be honest with you. $100 billion is a lot of money. So, I seem to be reading things about measurement companies and fraud protection companies and their capabilities or maybe their inability to catch certain types of fraud. So I don't think things are overcooked. I think someone needs to start really getting down with this and cooking something up to figure out how we get that money back into the space. I mean, that's a lot of money, and publishing right now could definitely use some of that.
Claim that everyone in your company reports to the customer, flipping the traditional pyramid upside down. How do you implement this revolutionary concept without becoming just a catchy corporate slogan? Do your team members actually genuinely embrace this philosophy, or are they just merely nodding along?
No, I think our team is definitely embracing it. I think lots of companies in our space do that, and they do it well. And every organization I've been at has had that mindset, and which has been great. But basically, it's not just a talking point, right? I mean, essentially the way that you think you manage this internally in the organization is that anyone that's customer facing and customer touching is really the boots on the ground. Those are the teams that you have to support, and you have to drive a lot of products and listen very closely to them so that you can build the right products. And it's something where the whole organization, marketing, product, and everyone can get around pretty easily. I haven't had a challenge with it in the organization I've been at, because I start with this conversation, interview number one, when I'm talking to somebody, to see if the CEO and the executive team are on board with that level of thinking.
Can you share an instance where this customer first mentality made a tangible difference?
Yeah, sure. I think when it comes to getting things off the press for marketing for our customers, and when we need mock-ups and things like that, that's really where my team right now is fantastic. And I've got a great marketing team who's pushing out lots of great material. And so just being able to get something in somebody's hands, and we have planning, of course, and lots of projects that are underway. But, we need to be very nimble and quick. And so just producing materials like that for our customers and agencies that we're working with right now is a way that's been implemented, for us.
So what's one big misconception ad tech you think everyone has? Is it that you can just build a product and disrupt the industry, or something else?
I think the misconception that folks have is that it's easy. It's going to happen fast.
Right.
And
there's no easy button, as Dave Morgan said recently.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no easy button, and it's things take a long time, and it's really because of once again, going back to how busy this space is. There's so much to do. There's so many elements to whatever your business is, right? Like if you're an agency, you're planning, buying, for following quarters, you're actively running campaigns right now as well too. So I think just, things being easy and it happening so fast is the thing that I've learned over time. My projections and my time management even has changed tremendously. If you talked to me 10 years ago, thinking I was going to get this done and that done by this time. So I think, just slowing it down and understanding that things do take time. In some cases, I just had to retrain my brain, to be honest. If I thought I was going to do something a certain amount of time, I would have to technically just add more time and like literally add 2 days to everything that I said until my brain was trained to know that, I could kind of spread things out a bit and not overcommit.
You could give your 1995 self one piece of advice about what to expect from the wild ride of digital. What would it be?
I guess I think that if I had known that we were going to move to such a fast and paced measurement market where, kind of the measurement capabilities for attribution and those type of things were going to happen, I think I would have started building and looking towards that part of the industry and potentially just focused on creative and measurement, which I really enjoy, that part of the sector.
After 30 years, how do you keep your passion afloat for the industry, that is?
Sure. Yeah.
Is it caffeine or is it just a wild combination of things?
Yeah, caffeine, I work out a lot, so, and I honestly, like, I literally did leave in 17 because I just wasn't inspired, and
Right.
what I'm feeling right now is like really inspired. I'm super excited about what I'm doing. I have not been this excited about the space since 2008, that the SSP, the start of the SSPs in that sector of the platforms, So it really comes down to innovation. And again, the attraction I have that brought me back was retail and commerce media, which is, kind of built on the concept of ad networks. And so for me, that was exciting. And that's really what, kind of keeps me going.
Do you have a hype playlist that keeps your creative juices flowing?
I listen to all types of music, but I do have a list that I've been running it's called Pre-Party actually.
Right.
But I just made a list, and so it's got everything from like Major Lazer to Kendrick Lamar and like, a bunch of tracks on it. So yeah, I listen to that pretty consistently. I guess, and the value that I've had consistently is just be kind, right?
Right.
Just be nice. It doesn't cost anything. I think that is something that I take with me, not just in this industry, but just everywhere. I try to do the right thing by people. I think over time, as I have become older, the patience to just really kind of stop and listen and, take moments and really kind of read the room, read the moment and make sure you understand what's happening so that, you can say and do the right things and by people. And, that's probably what I would say has been consistent for me in my career.
You espouse the principle of customer first, but how does that translate into your personal life outside of work?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like what I was just mentioning, which, when I say customer first, inside of in my personal life, it's
Right.
people first, and like, the level of empathy and apathy, towards individuals, like, is really powerful. I would say that, I kind of use that in my day to day. It doesn't matter who I'm talking to, just walking down the street, in the hall, opening doors for people, whatever. I grew up in the South, so I kind of I have that,
Right.
going for me. But I think that
Yeah, my mother.
okay, yeah. I still say yes, ma'am, no, sir, and things like that. But I think that kind of customer first is translated to me as people first, and it's important to be good to people that you don't know, and also people that may be challenging or having their own challenges. You just don't know what they're going through. Sometimes the people that are the least nice to me, I might be the most nice to because they might need it,
So, do your kids appreciate your over-the-top customer service skills, or they just roll their eyes?
No, they do. My kids are great. They're really nice, and I actually learned a lot from my kids. And my oldest son, who's deaf, changed my life significantly, from a patience standpoint and from an understanding and empathy standpoint as well too. So yeah, it's the service thing is happening across the whole household.
So I'm going to mess up his name like I do every single time.
Who's that?
Rishad Tabakawala. Is that right?
Tabakawala, I think so, yeah.
Tabakawala. Is a guiding star for you. What is the most impactful lesson he's imparted to you that you still apply to your daily life?
Man, honestly, like I read his stuff, and every time I read it, it's like it's like reading if you read horoscopes or something. I don't, but if you do, you're like, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm doing right now, or I need, or like that makes so much sense. So I don't have an individual thing for you per se. I think that I read a lot of his information, and I digest the organizational concepts very well from him, which help us drive the business forward, and I share that with my team. So I'd say organization management is one of the big takeaways. But he talks about creative and all kinds of different parts of the industry. But I attract to that side of things as I'm building a new company.
Is he aware of the extent of his influence on you, or is this like a secret you've kept?
I think I told him, at one point. It's funny. I
Well, he'll
actually
know
called him.
now.
Yeah, exactly. I actually called him. I'd never spoken to him before, but I called him, or I was emailing him back and forth when he launched his content and his posts, right? His blog posts and his articles. And so I started receiving them, and this is like maybe 2020, probably. Started receiving them, reading them. I was like, oh my God, this is great. And then he had these amazing pictures and like paintings and stuff inside of them. And so I was really responding to him on that. I was like, oh my, that's an amazing painting. It really captures what you're talking about, this and that. And at some point, I was going to build e-commerce cannabis company, a technology company. And I had 3 or 4 customers using the solution, but I was like, hey, let's go raise some money. Let's scale this thing. And thank God I did not do that. As you know, cannabis is like, it's a hard game. It's a broke game too. But I called him out of the blue to talk to him about that business. And he took the call, and we talked about, what I could do in the industry. And he was kind of interested in learning more about that space, since, a lot of us in the ad tech space don't know how Canatech works and stuff, or why you need a different point of sale system, why you can't use Toast for everything, right? So yeah, he didn't know, and he does know now probably, and we had a couple of interesting chats about his articles and his emails that come out.
So who are 5 people, living or dead, you want to have on a deserted island, and why? And your choices have to be practical. So you're not allowed to have poets.
Okay. So what would I have? So I would have like a field medic from the Army. Okay, so we got healthcare taken care of.
Right.
I would.
You know someone who's a field medic?
I do
Or
know
you're
it.
just gonna hire them? Oh, yeah.
No, I don't know. So I'm hoping they're going to be on the plane or the boat or whatever happens to us, unfortunately. But yeah, I would say a field medic, so we could get, kind of get that sorted. Someone with survival skills. So I don't know, like one of the winners from Last One Standing or Naked and Afraid, something. I watch all those shows and the Naked and Afraid shows. Right? So someone from who kind of got all those type of skills. Someone who can fish. Maybe they're the same person, but someone who can fish and like.
Probably like everyone mentions Bear Grylls.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, like he's a common. People are
I
like, we just want Bear Grylls.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry I don't have names for you per se. I just got kind of like, kind of roughly who the person would be, what their DNA would be. And then, as silly as it sounds, so we can get off the island, I would have an astral traveler so that hopefully someone could go visit and figure this shit out and get us off.
So what's the wildest idea you encountered in the industry that actually makes sense?
Wildest idea in the industry that makes sense. I think one of the wildest things that's happening right now, and it's really, a bit self-serving to what we do for Shoppable and Shoppable TV, is Telly.
Right.
I'm really
I
excited
was going
about
to ask
that
you
product.
about Telly, what you think about Telly.
Yeah, it's an exciting product.
Yeah, it really is.
It's the first time the TV's actually changed, right? And so now you've got this bar, a second screen at the bottom, and when I think about it, I think about the fact that you could literally have an ad right here for something, and maybe the show is playing, and someone's got this purse or shoes or whatever, and then it shows right here. And then you could literally have a product line come across the screen, right, with different clothing, once again, within the show or not, but you could just have the the dress and the shoes and the purse and the all right there for you to look at and purchase from. So I find that to be game changing, honestly. Like, I don't know if any other TV manufacturers are going to start doing something interesting like that, but you could imagine it makes a ton of sense, you know?
Is it going to be free or just discounted? Do you remember?
It's free. You have to answer, I think, 130, 150 questions. I got through the first 20 and I just couldn't keep going. I was just busy, but I opened it up and started down that path. But it asks you a lot of questions. It asks you things like, what car do you drive? And what car do you want to drive? You know, very insightful questions to get the TV. I think they have a list of 500,000 people who have signed up. And I don't know exactly how many they've delivered so far in the U.S. market. But
it was like the next generation of offer walls. Remember those?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
You know, and then so who knows? You know, I think the remotes are going to change for everybody, telly or not. I think we'll see a basket on a button, you know, right there, you know, where you can just like click and buy things.
So actually, if you could impart one invaluable piece of wisdom to a fresh graduate about to step into the chaotic world of digital media, what would it be? And would they actually heed your advice?
Good question. I think always be asking, always be learning. You know, you can learn things from anybody, whether they're been around for a long time or short time in the space. But I would say that, you know, always be learning and asking questions and keep questioning things. And I mean, you technically don't stop doing that no matter how long you've been in the industry. But as a newbie, you definitely want to ask a lot of questions and listen and maybe take notes, which people don't seem to take notes anymore as much. But like actually take notes, you know, because writing, reading, thinking, you know, helps you kind of really maintain and sustain that material.
So if you could have a superpower that would obliterate any problem in ad tech, what would it be? And mind control over clients is a valid answer.
Okay. No, I would have a button to stop ad fraud like that. We need that money back in the space. You know, I mean, that literally $100 billion is being spent out of somebody's wallet as a brand and finding its way where it's going nowhere. It's doing nothing. So if I could just fix anything and push one button, make it happen, that would be it.
So last but not least, I like to ask people, when did you grow the most in your career and why?
Let's see. When did I grow the most? You know, I think as a person, I grew the most during COVID. The slowdown of COVID, that put me back at my house and not traveling as much. Not even the amount of time it takes just to plan travel, as you know, is like challenging within itself. But a lot of that time that I got back, and you didn't have anywhere to go really either too, right? I think that was the time that I changed the most in my life. And I learned a lot about myself, and I really started to dig into my personal DNA. And I feel like if I had not had a slowdown moment of some type, a forced slowdown moment like that, I may not be who I am today.
Big thanks to Raj Chauhan, who took us on a wild ride through the evolution of digital advertising. From building ad networks in the 90s, when most of us were still figuring out how to send an email, to shaking things up in Cannabis and now leading the charge at Voodoo with Shoppable TV. This guy's done it all. If you didn't take notes, rewind and start again, because this was a masterclass in how to turn chaos into opportunity. And of course, a nod to our sponsors, Troutman Ahmed, the law firm that makes fighting complex litigation look easy. These guys handle the mess, so you don't have to. And shout out to Origin, bringing connected TV solutions to life. We'll catch you next time on the ADOTAT show. Stay bold, stay curious, and know more than you did yesterday.